All right. If you've spent any time at all around popular prophecy literature, you've definitely heard of the terrifying enemy known as Gog of Magog, right? It's everywhere. But what if the way we've been taught to read this ancient text, specifically Ezekiel 38 and 39, is just fundamentally flawed? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely set aside those modern assumptions, and we're going to look directly at the ancient textual evidence to see what the biblical authors actually meant. I mean, think about it. For decades now, popular paperbacks have basically trained us to see Ezekiel as this coded geopolitical map, like it's predicting modern military coalitions. We've always been told to look for Russia, the Black Sea, a whole confederacy of modern states. But today, as we dive into the actual ancient textual evidence, a completely different and frankly, a much more fascinating picture is going to emerge. Now, to be totally clear right up front, we are absolutely not taking sides on any modern political viewpoints here. Instead, we're just looking directly at our source material, which points out a really fascinating phenomenon. Reading Russia into this text, it's honestly a classic case of projecting mid-20th century anxieties backwards onto an ancient author. For a whole generation, readers were taught that the text was this coded roadmap for tomorrow's news headlines. But our source argues that filtering ancient prophecy through Cold War fears just completely misses the rich, ancient context of what Ezekiel was actually trying to communicate to his original audience. So let's jump right into Section 1, Debunking the Russian Illusion. When we actually break down the evidence, looking at it grammatically, historically, and geographically, the modern geopolitical reading just completely collapses on every single front. Seriously, let's look at it. Grammatically, the Hebrew word rosh just means chief or head. It is not a proper place name anywhere in the entire biblical documentary record. Historically, a nation named Rush didn't even exist during Ezekiel's time. And geographically, the specific nations Ezekiel actually names simply do not line up with modern Russia, not even close. People so often equate the ancient Hebrew title Rosh with the Indo-European term Rus, just because, well, they sound alike. But as our source points out, that's literally like linking the Hebrew word kol, which means all, with the English word coal, the black rock you burn for fuel. They sound similar, sure, but they belong to completely different language families. And actually, it gets wilder. The name Rus actually comes from Scandinavian Varangians, like actual Vikings, who didn't even settle in that region until the 8th century AD. Guys, that is 14 centuries after Ezekiel wrote his prophecy. It just doesn't fit. So geographically speaking, the source material places all of these ancient names, Meshech, Tubal, Togarmah, and Gomer, securely south of the Black Sea, definitely not north of it. These names represent descendants of Japheth, and they were located in modern-day Turkey, the Upper Euphrates, and the Aegean. These were the actual real-world trading partners and military threats that the Mediterranean basin knew about back in the 6th century BC. To call them Russia is just geographically disingenuous. Which, of course, begs the big question. If they aren't Russia, then who exactly are they? That brings us to Section 2, the supernatural north. You see, to the ancient reader, the north wasn't just a point on a compass. It was basically a dark, supernatural zip code. In the ancient Canaanite religious imagination, Tsaphon, or Zaphon, was this specific mythological cosmic mountain. It's where the storm god Baal held his council and ruled. And remember, Baal was considered the lord of the underworld, the ultimate rival deity to Yahweh. So when an ancient Israelite heard about a massive threat coming from the north, they weren't just thinking about a neighboring human army. They were picturing the realm of dark rival gods. Take a look at this specific Hebrew phrase used for Gog's origin, yarkēte tsaphon, or the heights of the north. This phrase is absolutely crucial because it carries a powerful dual meaning. Yes, on one level, Gog's human coalition is coming from regions geographically north of Israel. But the language immediately signals to an ancient audience that this enemy is supernaturally empowered by the realm of the dead. Geography and theology are completely fused together here. Gog is literally emerging from the mythological seat of hostile divine authority. Notice how this mental map walks us step by step into the dark, supernatural territory of the ancient imagination. It's so cool. Every single step further north just intensifies the cosmic threat. Just north of Israel was Bashan, literally known as the gateway to the netherworld. Right above that was Mount Hermon, the exact site where Second Temple Jewish tradition believed the rebellious sons of God, the Watchers, descended. Further up, Phoenicia, the absolute heartland of Baal worship. And finally, Mount Zaphon itself. When Ezekiel says the enemy comes from the uttermost north, this entire terrifying mental map just lights up like a Christmas tree for the ancient reader.
Let's keep moving. Section 3. Gateway to the underworld.
Now this right here gives us a massive, really fascinating clue about how ancient people actually understood Gog. In the Septuagint, which is the ancient Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, the scholars repeatedly swapped the name Gog for Og. Now, if you remember, Og was the infamous giant king of Bashan, the last of the Rephaim, the one famously defeated by Moses. In several texts, the translators completely replace Og with Gog or vice versa. It's wild. And here's the thing. These translators weren't just making sloppy typos, not at all. They were intentionally connecting Gog to the giant clans and the rebellious sons of God. To the ancient Jewish mind, Gog and Og basically inhabited the exact same theological space. They both represented cosmic evil, giant clans, and that terrifying threat from the underworld gateway up in the north. The point is, Gog isn't some human politician. He is a quasi-divine figure of cosmic evil. And this whole idea becomes totally undeniable when we look at exactly how Gog's army is defeated. When Ezekiel says Gog's armies are going to be buried in the Valley of the Travelers, he is using highly specific cultic terminology. The Hebrew word oberim was actually a technical ancient Near Eastern term for the spirits of the dead who cross over into the netherworld. In fact, Ugaritic texts use this exact same term to describe the spirits of dead giants, the Rephaim. So Ezekiel is essentially saying they are being cast directly into hell, joining the spirits of the dead. And just look at where this burial actually takes place, east of the Dead Sea, in the Transjordan. This entire region is just absolutely clustered with underworld associations. You've got places like Oboth, which literally means spirits of the dead, and Peor, an ancient cultic site. The whole area is full of ancient megalithic tombs. Honestly, have you ever wondered why the New Testament book of Jude describes the devil fighting with the archangel Michael over the body of Moses? Well, this is exactly why. Moses was buried in this exact same region, the biblical gateway to the underworld. It makes it the absolute perfect mythological staging ground for the final consumption of cosmic evil. Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, the ultimate cosmic battle. Notice how John, the author of the book of Revelation, directly repurposes Ezekiel's vision here. It's a one-to-one parallel. In Revelation 20, Satan gathers Gog and Magog from the four corners of the earth. They march on the beloved city, and bam, they are destroyed by fire from heaven. The parallels are just incredibly dense and unmistakable. This proves without a doubt that Ezekiel 38 isn't some modern political skirmish tucked into a random news cycle. No, it is the ultimate defeat of cosmic evil at the very end of time. Furthermore, Ezekiel uses unmistakable Day of the Lord vocabulary here. Earth-shattering quakes, toppling mountains, fiery hailstones raining down from heaven. Across all prophetic literature, this specific stock vocabulary describes one thing and one thing only: the final divine intervention of history, an event that the New Testament aligns directly with the second coming of Christ. And you want the ultimate proof? Gog attacks a restored people who are experiencing supernatural peace. The Hebrew word used here is betah, which is a technical term for final messianic peace. This explicitly contradicts the whole idea that the prophecy is describing a modern nation under modern siege or facing terrestrial warfare today. It confirms that this event belongs at the absolute consummation of history. It's a final, desperate, cosmic challenge from the dark powers that is instantly, definitively shut down by fire from heaven. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought from our explainer today. What if the geography of the Bible is supernatural before it's terrestrial? If we just strip away our modern geopolitical anxieties and try to read these texts through the eyes of the ancients, we uncover a much bigger, much more profound story. The ultimate enemy is spiritual before he is political, and the victory isn't military at all. It's the final, eternal triumph over cosmic evil. I really hope this completely transforms how you read these incredible ancient texts moving forward. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep exploring.